Good day, everyone. So, have you ever felt confused when reading health news? One day, a headline tells that a certain vitamin can boost your health and help you live longer. The next day, another article warns that the same vitamin might increase health risk. A new plant extract is introduced as a breakthrough for improving memory, but later it is suspected of causing serious side effects. Some treatments for major disease are announced with excitement, yet we never hear about them again. So, what is really going on? Why do these messages seem so inconsistent? The answers lie in how scientific research is conducted, and more importantly, how we interpret. Now, let's start with a basic idea. Not all studies are equal. In science, researchers often begin with experiments on cells or animals. These studies are useful because they are easier to control and they can provide early insights. However, the human body is much more complex. What works in a mouse or in a lab dish does not always work in real people. That's why studies involving humans are essential. Among all types of human studies, the most reliable method is known as the randomized clinical trial or RCT. In this type of study, um, so participants like people they are divided into groups by chance, and this process of random assessment was extremely important and crucial because it helps ensure that the groups are similar a, in every meaningful way. In many cases, these studies are also blinded. This means that the participants do not know whether they are receiving the real the real treatments or not. Sometimes even the researchers do not know it. So this helps prevent bias and keep the result as objective as possible. Now let's imagine a simple example. Suppose scientists want to test a new drug for headaches or stomachaches, like some diseases. Yeah, so they gather a large number of people who frequently experience headaches. Then they randomly split them into two groups. One group did receive the actual drug, while the other received a placebo, a substance that looked the same but had no medical effect. If the study is designed properly, the only real difference between the two groups should be the treatment itself. So if one group improved significantly more than the other, researchers can reasonably conclude that the drug is responsible. Because of this level of control, randomized clinical trials are considered the most trustworthy way to test cause and effect. In fact, before a new drug is approved in many countries, it usually must pass multiple RCTs. However, despite their strength, RCTs are not always practical. They can be extremely expensive, take many years to complete all of them, and sometimes raise ethical concerns. For example, you cannot deliberately expose people to something that it might harm them to just to see what it happens. So, what do scientists will do in those situations? What will they do? So they turn another approach, another method called epidemiological studies. So just instead of controlling what people do, these studies observe people in their everyday life. Researchers look at existing behaviors and try to find patterns. For instance, imagine that we want to know whether a certain herbal supplement is linked to nausea. Just like instead of asking people to take it, we'll find individuals who are already using it regularly. This group becomes our study group. Next, we find another group of people who do not use the supplement. Then we compare the two groups together to see that if there is any difference between in the rate of nausea. So if the group taking the supplements reports more pneumonia, we might suspect that there is a relationship. But here's where things become complicated. A relationship does not necessarily mean that one thing causes the other. There could be many hidden factors influencing the outcome. For example, people who take herbal supplements might already have health concerns, which could explain why they feel unwell. They might follow different diets, have different lifestyle, and have access to different levels of healthcare. These hidden influences are known as confounding variables, and they are one of the biggest challenges in observational research. And even when the scientists try to account for these variables, it is very difficult to eliminate them completely. There are also other issues to consider. Sometimes studies may be influenced by funding sources or personal interests. In other cases, only certain data is highlighted, while other important information is just like ignored. So, because of this limitation, epidemiological studies cannot prove direct cause and effect. They can only suggest two things are related. However, this does not mean that they are useless. Far from it. Epidemiological studies have played a crucial role in essential role in identifying major public health risks. Like for instance, the harmful effect of smoking, asbestos exposure, and lead or were all discovered through careful observation and large population over time. But here's the important point. These conclusions were not based on just a single study. They were supported by many studies conducted in different places with different groups of people all reaching similar conclusions. This consistency is what give is what gives the scientists confidence in their findings. So the next, so what can we learn from it? So the next time you come across a shocking health headline, do not accept it immediately. Instead, take a step back and ask one few questions. What type of study is this based on? What is done on human, animals, or cells? If it involves humans, what is a controlled experiment or just an observation? Or are there any multiple studies supporting the same claim? By asking these questions, you can protect yourself from misinformation and avoid being influenced by exaggerated or misleading headlines. In a world full of information and fake information and real information, the fake and real one, critical thinking is one of the most important skills that we can develop these days on a day-by-day basis. So understanding how science works does not make us master. It just helps us make better decisions about our health and our life. Thank you very much for your attention.